and welcome to Real Talk. I am your host, Paul Britton, and with me this evening is the amazing, incomparable Kristen Smith.
Hello. Glad to be back.
How are you, Kristen?
I am really tired. I was
Oh no.
supposed I was supposed to be working before this, and then you know how anticipation hits in, and then I was just like I'm not going to get anything done tonight except this
Honestly,
podcast.
I went
So,
and saw Poor Things. I went and saw Poor Things on Sunday. No, Friday. I went to see Poor Things on Friday, and I don't know how I've done anything since Friday. Like, I don't know how just my entire being hasn't been consumed thinking about this movie. But we're saving that one for last. I figured we'd get the white guy biopics out of the way first, and then
biopics.
biopics.
I
There's
prefer biopics personally.
biopics. Yes, I like biopics. Although I say it differently every single time, and no two times are the same. So, yeah, we're going to get those out of the way first. And the two that we're talking about are Bradley Cooper's Maestro about Leonard Bernstein and Michael Mann's Ferrari about the Mr. Ferrari who, founded the automakers. What are your feelings on, like, in general, on mid 20th century white guy biopics? Where do you land on those at this point?
I would say we've gotten better.
Okay.
Because I feel like we've gotten better in the sense that there's less I forget the term for it. I always say it wrong, but what is it? The cradle to grave
Okay.
biopic?
Yeah. Yes.
Like, I'm glad at least we are getting away from that because, like, you have movies like Steve Jobs and Ferrari that are just like, we are going to focus on a very specific point in time.
A major event or something that's going on.
Yeah, like something that, like, we can learn about who this figure is without needing to be like, let's go to their childhood and find out where their root is. You know, like the Imitation Game, like, when did he become gay? Like, it's just like, we don't need to know this stuff.
Speaking of wondering when people became gay, let's start it off with Bradley Cooper's Maestro. So, all right. Now, this is what you were commenting people are getting away from, though this one did not attempt to get away from it, and just settled nicely into we are going to tell you about everything that happened to Leonard Bernstein from the first time he was the lead conductor of an orchestra in New York City all the way through his death. And, well, maybe like 5 years before his death or something like that. And so, all right, I'm having a hard time with this one because I'm 100% with you that we need to get away from these type of things. I'll start with the setup of the movie. The way the movie sets up is we're introduced to the fact that Leonard Bernstein was at the very least bi, if not gay, but with, slight, accommodations made to sleep with a woman from, who happened to be his wife. And that's introduced right away, where we see him on the day of his, he finds out the day of that the conductor that is, he's like third in line, and the primary conductor is going to be out of town, so the secondary conductor was going to be the guy, but he gets sick, and so it's going to be Leonard Bernstein, and it's a big deal. Honestly, I that's the movie. Like, if they just wanted to make the entire movie about that day, I think that's a fucking interesting thing. Am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong, although I give Maestro a little bit more credit.
Okay.
In that it's fucking weird. Like,
it is, yeah.
Like, it does two things that one that I am kind of okay with, and another one that I feel less okay with.
Okay.
The, like, number one thing is that it kind of jumps around a lot temporally. So like there's different timelines, like we're constantly kind of like skipping between different scenes. So we're not actually like sticking
Does it
to
jump timelines though, or does it just jump? Because I never feel like we go backwards in time, do we?
maybe not maybe not like back and like in a back and forth sense, but like
Right.
we do jump around a lot in a way
Yeah.
that's kind of magically realistic. Like
Sure.
you'll see
Sure.
them at a dinner table and then he
Yeah.
grabs her hand and they run and then there's a very subtle cut and all of a sudden now they're running through the stage and they're
Yes.
doing a
Yes.
performance.
Yes. That's what they do. So this one does the cradle to grave while not try the one thing that what I would say is what it does successfully is it doesn't try to make a grand thesis of any kind. It's basically almost like if somebody made or published an anthology of short stories about Leonard Bernstein. Um,
Yes.
Mostly unrelated, uh absolutely can survive on their own, without any sort of context from what happened before them to what happened after them, other than understanding who the characters are. And really just presenting these individual events in his life, as individual scenes. And eh, which is okay, I guess. But also, I kind of feel like Leonard Bernstein is big and important enough in our world that maybe a thesis wouldn't be so bad. Like maybe trying to really come out and say, other than, this is a guy who, would absolutely fuck anything that moves. What, did had these major sort of how did he feel about it? Like you never like you get an idea. By the way, amazing job by Carrie Mulligan playing his wife Felicia. Just
Yes.
she does such a good job here.
And that's my biggest complaint about the movie is that and I've heard that like either you're going to have this complaint or you don't when you watch
Mhm.
it. That either you're going to go into it wanting more or you're just going to be satisfied. And like
Okay.
I was definitely one of those people that's just like there's a very famous probably I don't think it's spoiling mentioning it, but like he plays Mahler
Yes.
and it's a very long extended scene
Yeah.
watching Bradley Cooper,
Yeah.
Leonard Bernstein um
Conduct. Yeah.
conduct.
Yeah.
And like I wanted more of that
Yes.
because like as someone who admittedly I was too young to kind of know about Leonard Bernstein, like I feel like by the time that I was growing up, he had already kind of like long passed. I knew him by name.
Yep.
And like having a friend who like was really into this movie when he first saw it and like told me about how much he like loves Leonard Bernstein. I'm just like I feel like there's so many interesting aspects with this person, especially from a craft standpoint,
Mhm.
that like I would have loved this if it almost went a Tar kind of route where we are just diving deep into him as an artist. Like,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
is he expressing it? What is going through his head as he's doing it? And like we
Yeah.
get little glimpses like here and there, and probably that Mahler piece is the
Yeah.
biggest
Yeah.
showcase of it. And I wanted more of that because I thought that
You
was just so fascinating.
Yeah, you get almost none of it. Almost none of what you're talking about. And the Mahler scene is by far the best scene. On in every sense. It's emotionally satisfying. It is uplifting. It is just a gorgeous spectacle the way it's put together. Um the music is it's the one time during the movie where the music is actually a character, where which is a little odd in a movie about Leonard Bernstein, that the music doesn't play a bigger role. As you were kind of commenting, it's the one, like you said, it's the one thing that I wanted more of. But Also, and this is a long-standing rule of mine, is that I try not to the filmmaker wants to tell a story. There's in every movie, the filmmaker has a story that they want to tell, and clearly that wasn't a story that Bradley Cooper necessarily felt like telling, as evidenced by the fact that they spend literally 0 minutes around the time when
Really?
West Side
No,
Story
it's
story
actually
starts.
he's obsessed with conducting
Yeah,
and was like really passionate about this story.
you
Not
wouldn't
that
know
I
that.
feel like that is always
Yeah,
conveyed how I would have loved it to be conveyed.
right.
But I will, at least having done a little bit of research, knows that like Bradley Cooper's really into this subject,
Yeah,
really into, the idea of conducting, like ever since
yeah.
he was little. And so like,
But you wouldn't know that Leonard Bernstein was
yeah.
from this movie. You would believe that Leonard Bernstein just really wanted to be able to live a dual sexual life, and that I mean that was really the big. And I go back to it just because the movie goes back to it a lot. And I'm not trying to highlight it as a thing, as like, oh, this was a big deal. Just that the movie made it a big deal. Am I wrong, or did you not get that sense from it?
I don't know. I still have a lot of thoughts about it. Like
Okay,
I watched it again for this,
cool.
and I liked it more the second time.
Hmm.
Now that there's always, I feel like, with movies lately where I have to have one viewing to just get out of my system, like, oh, you're not going to do what I want you to do.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, right,
And
right,
then,
right.
and then like like trying to re-experience it knowing what it is.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like when I made that mental change, I was kind of like, okay, so this is just going to be a movie about their relationship primarily.
Right.
And I just will have to do my other research in order to just make sure that I get what I need out of it.
Yeah,
But
I guess my point is, as you mentioned, it's perfectly fine that the movie is focuses on their relationship, and I think that's not unexpected. I mean, you think of your famous musical biopics, and when there's an important significant other in the picture, that's usually a heavy focus of what the movie story that is being
yeah,
told. Just
Amadeus and Salieri.
sure. Oh, okay. Well, if we're gonna go there, um, uh, or like Walk the Line, was anyway. There's a long history of especially musical biopics that do that. I mean, hell, even Napoleon with Josephine, or just earlier this year. Um, but what's unusual is that interwoven in there is, how does the person's professional career impact that aspect of their life? And I don't think you get that here. I don't
I
think
would
you get
agree.
I don't think you get the idea that, and maybe it just wasn't an issue, and maybe she just was so supportive of his musical career, but you would barely know that. You would watch this, somebody who knows absolutely nothing about Leonard Bernstein would have to pay very close attention to know that he wrote the score for West Side Story, because it's just it is not a plot point in the movie.
It is mentioned that
It's
he is
mentioned.
working on something with
Yep.
a Stevie Sondheim.
Yep. And then uh like when they're in the middle of the 70s, he goes to an event or something, and he's introduced as, and they list his accomplishments. And West Side Story is mentioned, and it's just I mean, that's such a, and maybe that the problem is that where I'm coming from, that's a big deal. And maybe for fans of Leonard Bernstein, that's actually a footnote and not a big deal. And I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
I do have one question for you though. Like,
Sure.
how does this compare? Since this is the second time that Bradley Cooper has directed,
Yeah.
how do you feel it compares to slash what were your thoughts on A Star Is Born compared to this?
I think A Star Is Born is a far more effective film uh, 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 by just an indefinite measure. Um, but I also it's clearly the far more narrative film too, and I like that. You know, I like narrative. I respect non-narrative, and I frequently appreciate non-narrative, but uh given, you know, if we're talking, you know, sitting down, if I had to pick one to watch, it's definitely going to be A Star Is Born. I am far more emotionally invested in all of those characters than I am in any of the characters in Maestro. That being said, some of the vignettes that you get in this movie are better than anything you see in A Star Is Born from a directorial standpoint. The two primary scenes being, you know, they're the two most discussed scenes. It's going to be the Thanksgiving Day fight and the
I love
and
that scene.
oh, it's such a good
Holy
scene.
crap.
The from I could have a half hour of that,
And
and
when Snoopy showed up, I lost it.
it's perfect. It's everything about that scene. There's so much going on in that scene. It is so well layered that it almost calls into deficiency the layering of everything else that's going on in the movie. I'm you know, there's just so much packed into that scene. It's easily the most well-written scene in the movie, and one of the most well-written scenes in any movie this year. But to the point that all the other scenes just feel completely underwritten. And and then obviously the Mahler scene, because that's a perfectly written scene where there's almost no dialogue. And but just the the composition of frame in that movie, in that scene, and by composite I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about every single shot. I'm talking about the entire camera movement, constantly in movement, and you just get the feeling of the music in that movement, and the music is so prevalent and powerful. Those two scenes are amazing. It's like, can we, rather than shooting for a 15-minute movie, I would take like a 90-minute movie of like 5 scenes just like that. Like,
Could we add one more scene that's also
oh
low
yeah,
key
sure,
my favorite scene?
sure.
Yeah. Can we also add old Leonard Bernstein dancing to Shout by Tears for Fears
Okay, interesting.
club? I want
Okay,
like a minute long sequence of it.
okay. How about how about it's just that. Like, so his so
The
look,
entire movie is
no,
just
no, no,
that.
no. But
I
I
mean,
didn't like
I pay for
here's
it.
the thing is I didn't like the setup of the scene. Like the scene where he's kind of teaching. Like, I'm sorry, but like, you know, who did it better, Tar or this? And Tar, like, you know, I mean, the Tar teaching scene is such a vastly superior and impactful and important and
Well,
interesting
she
scene.
learned from Leonard after all.
Well, isn't that weird? Like, isn't it weird that the two movies have identical things going on in them, and that the one movie does it so much better than the other movie? And it's the fictional one versus the I don't know how to. That's the type of thing that with this movie that I don't know how to reconcile, because you are right. Seeing him dance like that, it's probably Cooper's best acting moment, like, just because he seems like he's actually lost in the scene, and that's really cool, and it's really effective. But the scene right before that, when he's teaching the guy that he's dancing with, to, you know, conducting, it's just like, this feels very done before, because it had been, and better. You know, like, I'm surprised he didn't see the scene from Tar and like, well, fuck, I can't put this in my movie now. Like,
He, yeah, like he had like moments where it was just like, I don't know, it felt like he was kind of just being a really creepy old man. teaching conducting, and I was like, I don't know if he can save this. And I'm like, okay, he's kind of charming. I'll give him that. And then he
Yeah.
was dancing to Shout by Tears for Fears
Right.
under a red light and a bunch of like gay men. And I was just like,
Right.
more of this, more of this.
Right. And that's the weird. This movie is such it presents such a conundrum as a movie fan, um, because there is so much in it that really makes you feel like I appreciate everything that this movie presents. I appreciate some things that it presents way, way more than other things, and and that's it. And so, but I don't know. I feel like we've kind of done the Maestro. I think I'm ready to rate it. Are you ready?
Yeah,
Is there anything
sure.
else you wanted to say?
Um, I still stand by. I'm going to call it here. My prediction is that this is going to win Best Makeup and Best Actor for Bradley Cooper.
Interesting. Okay, cool. I'm not so sure about Best Actor, but makeup I can see. Okay, go ahead. Here on Real to Real Talk, we do a taco scale rather than stars. And if you feel like you don't want to give a whole taco, you want to give it a little something instead of giving half a taco, we put guac on it because nobody eats half a fucking taco. So go ahead, Kristen. You start. Where do you land on Maestro?
I give it 3 tacos.
3 tacos. Okay.
It may not sound like it from the way that I was describing it, but like I do appreciate a lot about I do appreciate how experimental Bradley Cooper can be sometimes, even if sometimes those moments don't exactly work.
Mhm.
And like I had mentioned earlier, I watched like I watched it a second time just to kind of like gauge my thoughts. And once I kind of accepted that this is the movie that we were getting, I did enjoy it a lot more and
Okay.
felt like more invested in it, more interested in looking for details because there all are like small details trying to kind of hint things that are not really well written.
Right.
Like, but it's still trying to give hints that there is, for example, there is a understanding between Leonard and what's the wife's name? Is it Felicia?
Yeah. Felicia or
Yeah,
Felicia.
like
Yeah.
that there is an understanding between them,
Right.
but we'd never really understand what that is.
Right. And clearly he thinks there's more of an understanding than she thinks.
Yes.
So I'm actually, I have said negative things, but I'm actually giving it 3 tacos plus guac because of the scenes that we talked about. I feel like overall it's a 3 taco movie. Extremely watchable. Absolutely something I wouldn't mind revisiting. But the Mahler scene and the Thanksgiving Day fight scene, just primarily for me, those 2 scenes are so good. Like I don't know that I've seen anything better than the Mahler scene this year in cinemas. Like it's that good. And I wish I had seen it in a big theater. Like I'm frustrated that it didn't get a bigger, wider release. I'm frustrated that my only avenue was watching it at home because I know that scene would have
It
just been
would have
bonkers.
been great in the theaters.
Right. So that leads us to first a comment from our friend Blair. So we're just going to show
Hi, Blair.
he's on board. Hello, movie nerds. I think he's referring to you and me as movie nerds, but that's I'll own that.
Call me a
Uh,
nerd.
well, next up is Michael Mann's Ferrari. So interestingly enough, when we first started discussing having you come on, we knew we were going to do Maestro. We knew we were going to do Poor Things. And then the third movie, I kind of left up to you because Color Purple was coming out and Ferrari was coming out. And I was like, I'm going to do both of them at some point. But obviously, we can only really do 3 movies, the 2 of us. So which would you rather do? And at first you were thinking Color Purple. And then you responded to me the next day, say, I'm going to go see Ferrari because I'm a Michael Mann fan. And so before we dive into Ferrari, I would like you to share, your just overall thoughts on Michael Mann and what of his makes you a fan.
Well, you do. I don't know if you remember, but I did a whole Michael Mann episode with Sergio.
Okay. That's
We went through this entire filmography
okay.
minus I think we didn't really discuss Black Cat because I
Okay.
had seen it, he hadn't.
Okay.
And Last of the Mohicans, which I had not seen, and he had.
Okay. Have you rectified that?
I rectified it, although Last of the Mohicans is not my favorite man movie.
Interesting. Okay. No, I mean that's fine. Not interesting that it's not your favorite, but you're saying that almost like rather than not your favorite, you almost didn't like it.
It's if you were to give me a list of
Mhm.
like all of his movies,
Yeah.
it would probably be in the bottom 3 that I would revisit.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that I find surprising, especially with Black Hat being out there.
Oh yeah,
But
I mean Black Cat's all the way at the bottom.
okay, okay. Um, like
But
are
like
like I'm assuming that Collateral is high up there for you, and The Insider is up there for you. Are those high up for you?
yes.
Okay.
My top 2.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'll give you my top 3.
Sure.
Number 1, and this is very personal pick. It's in my top 25, The Insider. Number 2, obvious, everyone should watch it, Heat.
Yeah.
And number 3, my controversial pick, Miami Vice, the
Oh, nice.
2006 one,
Nice. You just like
which
mojitos.
which I just want to hear Colin Farrell say mojitos and have Gong Li speak English phonetically.
Yeah. And wearing just the most tight dress that a human being could wear without actually not wearing a dress. Amazing. Yeah. That's I love it. Heat's my number one. I'm just
It should be. It's an
I'm a
amazing
Gen X
movie.
white guy. What am I gonna do? Heat's my number one. Collateral is my number two. And
Collateral fucking rules.
yeah, Insider is probably 3 today. Like, that 3 spot is up for the 3 spot is up for grabs. Not going to fall into number 3, though. I liked it, but it's definitely, Michael Mann's Ferrari. Let's just do it. Let's pull the band-aid off. All right. Go. What you all right. So but this does the one thing that Maestro didn't do, which is it focuses on an event. There is a race that is a huge race in Italy, the I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. It's basically the 1,000-mile race in Italy, where it's literally a road race. Anyone can enter, but there are 2 main players in it. There's Ferrari and there's Lamborghini, or not Lamborghini. There's Ferrari and
Maserati.
there's Maserati. I apologize for that mistake. And then there's just a whole bunch of other people that join the race because it's literally open to anybody that wants to drive 1,000 miles in one day. And both Maserati and Ferrari are in financial difficulties here in post World War II Italy. It's been 10 years. This is 1957 now, and they're having problems, and so they're both not for sale but looking for investors. And the idea is that in order to get the best investor, and in order to get the best deal from the investor, this race is really important. That's a great setup. Like, bravo to the screenwriters for saying this is how we're going to set it up. I have no idea how realistic that is. Like, I don't know if Ford or the British company that was potentially an investor. Like, I don't know if those companies actually gave a shit how these cars did in this 1,000-mile race. But it's a great setup, and it made for a really compelling race. And once again, we see that Enzo Ferrari's wife, who is played by literally the incomparable Penelope Cruz,
MVP for me.
just fucking
So good.
Are you kidding me? Laura, his wife Laura, is the 50 is basically half the company. It's Enzo and it's Laura, and much like in Maestro, we find out that we are introduced to Enzo in a house sleeping with somebody. And in this case, it's, we'll say his mistress, although it's not really his mistress. It's more the baroness of his second home, I guess you could call it, something like that. He's a committed partner to this person, mother to his youngest child that his wife has no idea even exists at the start of the movie. And so, uh, how important is it that white dudes in the mid 19th century screwed around? Because I kind of feel like biopics today really want to make that a really important thing, but I don't know if that's an important thing, and I'd love your take on
Well,
that.
as you know, in order to be a great person in history, you have to be a giant horn dog.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently. Like, you
Yeah.
just really
Or
want to.
you're really trying to, Napoleon.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
really trying.
He really wants to set up a stable. He just cannot
He just
manufacture.
can't.
Yeah. Poor Napoleon.
Man. Is it bad I want to see Napoleon just for those scenes?
No, because
That's the only reason.
those scenes are awesome. That's another movie that we're talking about.
Another movie.
Yeah, another movie, another part of Europe.
I'm just happy that Michael Mann is making movies again.
Okay, is that where you are? You're just. I want Michael Mann making
I
movies.
kind of like coasted through a lot of this movie. Like,
Okay.
didn't always work for me because it's would it be weird for me to say I kind of wish this was more Michael Mann-y?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, no, that's not
there's
weird.
a kind of an unhinged Michael Mann that I'm used to.
Yeah.
Like that, like chooses like really kind of weird angles. I think of like Miami Vice, which is just like needle drops, weird cinematography, kind of low light. Does it work? Is this filmed with a ham sandwich or a camcorder? Who knows? And like
apparently it was like one of the first movies filmed all digital.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
And that's why it looks like hot garbage.
Yeah.
And I love it for that very reason.
Okay.
But like, I kind of like went into a lot of this movie just thinking to myself, like, man, I am just so happy that Michael Mann is making movies that sometimes I wish it was more Michael Mann-y. Like, why we could have fit Moby into this movie, like Moby music, like could have used some electronic music into there, could have used some soulful driving / oh my god, did he ever look at the ocean? That's a huge Michael Mann thing. Did he ever? I don't think he did.
Well, it doesn't take place near the ocean, so
it's Italy.
The roads
he could have found. Sorry, I'm
they could have
digressing.
manufactured it. No, you're right. That's fair.
Yeah, but like, no, like I really did enjoy it. Like even with all of the like politics of him just like having a mistress, and then you're following him trying to like following Penelope Cruz as she's trying to like figure out like what's going on, like where is all this money coming from?
Yeah. Or going to,
like it was really compelling. At times I kind of wish that it kind of picked up the pace a little bit because it definitely dragged about halfway through the movie where I was just like, okay, where is this going? Like, I know we have a big race. How far away is it? I'm kind of wondering.
Yeah. Well, it was not too far off into the distance all throughout the movie. And to add to your, I wish it was a little more Michael Mann-y. The thing that Michael Mann films better than anybody, like I'm just going to flat out say it, because there are scenes in Heat and there are scenes in Collateral and there are scenes in The Insider where it's dialogue, and I'm not talking dialogue in the grandiose. I'm talking dialogue between two people, just two people spitting dialogue at each other. And just making it the most absolutely captivating, compelling thing happening. And you have Adam Driver and you have Penelope Cruz, and unfortunately, all of the dialogue that they're going to spit at each other is marital strife stuff, which is fine, but not. But it doesn't feel like it's Mann almost feels a little uncomfortable filming those, as opposed to, white dude across the table from white dude, or cabbie with a dude in the back seat talking to each other. Like, those are the things. But Michael Mann just knows how to direct the shit out of a 2-person scene.
Yeah, like a nice cat and mouse,
Yeah.
like stakes are high types of scenes.
Yep. And that is completely missing here.
Yeah, there's a
Completely
lot of
missing.
drama, even in some cases like melodrama.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I will say the person who comes most unscathed out of that is Penelope Cruz, because she's able to take a lot of moments that are very stereotypical, like, I am a wife who has been cheated on
Yeah.
and I know something's going on and I have to do something about it. And she's able to kind of find some sort of humanistic spontaneity that comes out of it. Like, she's
Yeah.
able to have scenes like she goes to the scene like where her son is buried,
Right.
and you're expecting her to, like, I don't know, break down or have some sort of emotional scene, and instead she has this quiet moment where then all of a sudden she starts smiling,
Yeah.
and you're never verbalizes it, and she's just having this like really complex, like, ever evolving reaction. And it's like those kinds of scenes are where I find the drama of Ferrari works really, really best. And
Yeah.
other times it just feels like it's kind of slathered on a little half dash. Like um I was already complaining about this beforehand, but like the crashes are so kind of ludicrous.
Mm. In the way they're filmed, and in
Yeah, like
yeah.
there's a way to, I would say that you could have easily found a nice way of implying there's a crash without needing to show us.
Right.
As opposed to, this movie feels like it needs to show us. So you're watching the CGI car doing all kinds of flips like a Hot Wheels that just came off its track.
Yeah. You've just introduced something to me, and I need to process it for a second and respond.
Okay.
The idea that could you have done the crashes without showing them and just showing the aftermath, and I think you can't do the second one, which means that you have to
True.
introduce the crashes in the first one. Like, the first there, I don't think it's a big major spoiler here. There are 2 major crashes that happen in this movie, and they're extremely foreshadowed throughout the movie. And the second one is a great while the effects aside, it's like I gasped, like just audibly, like, oh my god, like, and it's a really effective scene. I think some of that effectiveness, even with crappy CGI, is lost if the actual crash itself isn't seen. Am I wrong?
I won't. I think I disagree.
Okay.
Because I feel like the goofiness of seeing a CGI car and CGI person being flung into the air, like in an almost superhuman level, like there's a tree and the car is like all the way up to the top of the trees. Like,
Mm-hmm.
holy shit, how can just one small thing cause this? I'm sure there's a science behind it.
Sure.
But I feel like we could have seen that the crash was about to happen. We either cut beforehand or the carnage of it be off screen, and then we're imagining it there. And because we're imagining something much more horrific until
Mm-hmm.
we finally see what that looks like.
Yeah.
Like, that's to me how I feel. I would have preferred that kind of a scene to be shown to us, because having this, like, the first crash we see, I laughed out loud. I
Yeah.
won't admit it. I won't be scared to admit, like, I was really,
Yeah.
really tickled by it.
Yeah.
The second crash, it was just like, oh my goodness, this is another, oh no, this is bad. Never mind, this is really bad.
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like an asshole now.
Yeah. it's something. So yeah, it's how does the okay? So the crashes aside, um, it, it, I I just and as much as we've commented that in biopics, you and I both like this idea of high stakes. Do you feel like the stakes were clear and big enough though?
I
Like,
don't think so.
yeah, yeah,
I feel that we, as an audience, we're getting glimpses that, like, this is how dire they are. Like, this is
yeah,
how dire the numbers are. Like, this is like, and we will get a scene that kind of spells it out, but you don't feel the effects of that scene throughout the rest of it. It's
right,
like in a ticking time bomb, like when you introduce a ticking time bomb,
yeah,
all you're thinking about as the following scenes unfold is there's going to be a giant explosion and I have no idea when it's going to happen.
right, right,
And it feels like there was a time bomb, which was this Ferrari potentially no longer existing because it couldn't afford, like, because it would be bankrupt.
right,
And we never really had a moment. We had some moments
yeah.
where it was like, oh, this is really, really bad, but none that made me just, I guess, none that made me suspended my disbelief knowing that Ferrari still exists.
The problem was that there was a thing that could happen, and if it happens, uh, it would cause the death of Ferrari, and then it happens,
It
and
happens.
then literally there's no consequences whatsoever. So they really suck the air out of its own conceit, and it's like, and it's to the point where the thing happens. It's like, oh fuck it, we're gonna deal with it, and we all know that Ferrari still exists, and like at least give me a meeting between Enzo Ferrari and the dudes from Michigan, and they walk in and they're like, and like just there's give me a fish out of water scene of
Yeah,
people from
like,
Detroit in Italy, like come on, like
and being
something,
like, we're watching that race.
yeah,
Y'all better win.
yeah, or something, like anything, yeah. So, but that being said, I've complained a lot, but I still liked the movie. I still liked uh the as much as I didn't feel like the dialogue, the one-on-one scenes between between Adam Driver and Penelope Cruz were like as good as Pacino and De Niro, or Fox and Cruz, Tom Cruise. They were still really impactful, particularly anytime their son passed away at, I think, age 24 from a disease, some type of dystrophy. It's not muscular dystrophy; it's a different thing. But and that plays a heavy emotional role in the movie, and I think the two, and it's something that happens prior to us arriving to the movie. And I think these two actors do an amazing job of communicating that. And I think lesser actors would not successfully do that. Like I think that's a very heavy thing to lift, and they do that successfully.
Yeah. And to echo what you said, I also liked it.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I'm complaining about it,
Right.
it's a Michael Mann movie and it's a well-made Michael Mann movie. So I'm
Yeah.
just like, I'm all on board for it.
Right. Right. I want better CGI, and if you're not going to give me any consequences to the bomb going off, then don't give me the bomb. Like I don't need the bomb then. Like, yeah, those are my two complaints. Otherwise, well done. All right, where do you land on the taco scale?
This is going to sound low.
Okay.
It is 2 tacos plus guac.
Okay.
I have a lot of, there were many things that I think, namely, I got kind of dull a little. I found it to be kind of boring a little bit in certain sections. I also question how much I actually like racing as a genre, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I really do. I'm kind of critical of Ford v Ferrari.
Oh, okay.
and some like other movies like that. But at the same time, the guac is there because I am positive on the movie.
Yeah.
I think I probably will like it more on rewatches. I will
Okay.
probably buy it because I own every Michael Mann
Sure.
movie. So like
Sure.
I feel like I'm just going to grow with this movie, and I feel that its rewatchability, which Michael Mann has been known to like have very rewatchable movies,
Mhm.
that like I think I'm just going to vibe more with it the more times I see it.
I want to share what Blair mentions. He says that Ford versus Ferrari is a good reference for the auto nerd history side of this. And I think you and I both fall in the non auto nerd side of this. So I am definitely showing up for the film and less for the auto nerd stuff. And for my rating, for me in general, if I like a movie but are just kind of like, I don't really particularly want to, I don't care if I ever see it again, that's a 2+ guac for me. And Three Taco Movie is, yeah, I definitely want to see this again, and so that's why this one lands for Three Tacos for me. And by the way, I'm not imposing that rule. That's just my personal thing on like how do I decide between 2.5, 2+ guac or three. If I'm going to buy it, or if I feel like it's good enough that I'll definitely seek it out when it's on a streamer or whatever, it's that's when it starts at the Three Tacos. And for me, this is definitely something I want to see again. I definitely think I'm going to like it more times around because I won't, I'll understand what the real stakes are, which is really the relationship between Laura and Enzo, and not the future of the company. And so I'll be ready for that, and I'll be more invested in those scenes between the two characters. But yeah, so that's where I land. Three Tacos. Our last movie, and dear God, Yorgos Lanthimos's Poor Things. Um, I have to read. This is the exchange, because always the thing about podcasting is the number one thing is always save it for the pod. And I got out of the movie literally like, and about 10 minutes later I sent you a text and it said, "Oh my God," on three separate lines, and then in parentheses, "just got out of Poor Things," and you just said ha 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 ha, and Yargos out Lanthimos himself. That's where we're gonna start. Please explain your statement. Yargos out Lanthimos himself.
So for those who are not familiar with director Yorgos Lanthimos, he is a Greek director. he made a big splash with his movie Dogtooth. Before making The Lobster, he was nominated for Best Director. Crazy, he was nominated for Best Director for The Favorite, which was my favorite movie of 2018.
Yeah.
And he is kind of like Wes Anderson in other types of auteurs, that he
Uh-huh.
just has a very specific visual style
Yes.
that only gets weirder with every single goddamn fucking movie he makes.
Yeah.
Like, he's really into low angles, he's really into like all kinds of fisheye lenses, like super wides, like
Mhm.
stuff that like literally, it's just like if this were if like my computer right now is the frame, like you're seeing this much movie in, because
Yes.
that's how much of a fisheye it is. The rest of it is black.
Yeah.
And that's just the way that he sees the world. And
Yeah.
like either you vibe with it and you don't, or you don't, and I vibe the hell with it. And he
Yeah.
seems like with each film he is getting crazier, he is experimenting more, he is
Yeah.
finding, like, he really is an auteur, it feels
Yes.
like.
For sure. And it's interesting because I you just said something, and we could literally base the entire conversation based on one thing that you said, and I'm going to hit on it. You said he uses the fisheye because that's the way he views the world. I I'm going to pause it. I'm going to throw this out at you, and you can hit it back or whatever. That I don't think that's how he views the world. I think that's how he views cinema. And
I think
the
so.
voyeuristic nature of cinema, and that's how he views the art form, not so much how, like, as people, he clearly is into the idea of voyeurism, just like watching people, watching and just like just being a human being. There is a voyeuristic nature to that. And then film, and really just specifically film, multiplies that by a billion. And here is your fisheye. You are looking through the camera lens, and like, and it's clearly obvious that he's just trying to give you the impression of looking through a lens, and that's what he's presenting, and that's how I interpret that.
Oh, I think you're probably more right than I am.
Okay.
I always just assume, uh, not always correctly, that like whenever you have a director with a really strong choice, like that kind of is how he sees things. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of how he or she is able to like.
But the only reason why I say that is because he really creates worlds. Like much like Wes Anderson, um, you know, he does not present a world. Charlie Kaufman's another great example of an auteur that creates worlds that feel very, very, very that are like 80 to 90% our world, but that 10 to 20% that it's off is really fucking off and really fucking weird, and that is the meat on his bone. That is really where the intrigue of his art resides, is that 10 to 20% that isn't the real world.
Yeah, and he does a really like one of the things that I really love about the way he told this story,
Yeah.
which if y'all are not familiar with it, those who are watching it, it's about a woman who gets resurrected, and the brain of her unborn
Don't Oh no, is that a spoiler? Is that too much of a spoiler?
That's literally in the
Okay.
description.
Okay, is it? All right, cool.
I think so. I will
All
double
right.
check. No, I'm gonna double check.
Okay. Yeah, it's too late. It's look, it's a retelling of Frankenstein. Okay. But in this case, the creature is literally just absolutely beautiful, Emma Stone, and the brain is not some abnormal brain that they find, but rather like you were saying, the unborn infant brain within.
Yeah, so you're watching an infant Emma Stone.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I really liked about this movie was that in order for us to fully understand how Bella Baxter, Emma Stone's character,
Yeah.
is experiencing things for the first time, experiencing the world for the first time, like we are in the real world, but the real world that we're seeing looks vastly different than anything that we've ever seen.
Right.
Like there's flying cars in Lisbon, that there's like these picturesque like purple skies like up above.
Mm-hmm.
And that like you mentioned world building, like there's so much world building in this movie for a movie that technically takes place on Earth in Europe in a real place.
Yeah. So the other thing you said in our exchange was like, Barbie, I'm astounded poor thing exists on the scale that it is. And that's really the key here, is that and Barbie's a great comp because here's a director that is being given a budget that he may never see ever again, because there is no way this movie makes money for the studio. It's just an impossibility, because even if this budget was 10 million and it looks like a $30 million movie, so if he was able to stretch 10 million into this, that's amazing and good for him.
Was it 10 million?
I don't know. I don't know what the budget was. I don't know.
I want to look at the budget.
Yeah, now
I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah, but the point being that much like Barbie, where I'm drawing a blank. Help me, save me. The
35 million.
See, it looked like a 30 million movie. Yeah, like he's just not going to get 30 million dollars again. And so he was like, well, somebody just gave me fucking 30 million dollars because I was nominated for an Oscar for The Favorite. I'm just going to go fucking nuts on this one, and he did. And God bless it, because it is just beautiful and astounding, and the audacity of it is unparalleled, just unbelievable at how audacious this movie is. It's not making $1 billion like Barbie. It's not even going to make 100 million. Like, I would love it if it made 100 million, but there's just no way.
I mean, I just want it to make its money back.
I know,
Like,
right? Yeah.
like, which, I mean, for art's sake, like,
Yeah.
doesn't have to in order
Yeah.
for its legacy to be positive.
Right.
Because
Oh man, that's a really interesting statement that you just said, because what is its legacy going to be? Because normies are not going to latch onto this at all. I mean,
wonder how it's like. Let me take a look
yeah,
at
it's
normies.
yeah.
Sorry that I keep wanting to just like check out other things. Like,
Yeah, no,
what is
because
this on
it's valid for the
IMDb right now?
conversation. Yeah, and
It has an 8.5 on IMDb.
But that's because the only people going to see, like, who's going to it? It's people like you and me who are going to be drawn to it. I can't. I don't know. Like, do you like? You went and saw it at a festival, didn't you?
No, I actually saw it in a theater, and the people that I was with in the theater were really, really into it.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I know that it did not make over 10 opening weekend. So I don't remember where it landed exactly, but it's goddamn this movie. Like, I love, like, it's great because so movies in their essence, you're one of the things you're looking for is a transformation of character. I mean, that is just like movie 101. If you ever take a film course, if you take just the most basic film course, the first thing you're going to do is watch a movie, and you're going to have to write a paper about how one character transformed in some way. This movie just says, all right, fuckers, we're doing a transformation of a character, but you're going to watch this character like literally grow up over the span of about 6 months, and the complete and utter transformation of a human being during that time frame. And it is so aggressive and beautiful. And what did you feel about her, like Bella Baxter's, growth, and like how did that hit you?
I mean, it hit me in the way that, like, I knew a little bit more about the themes, because, like, one of the themes that they talk about in the movie is how the more independent that she becomes, like, the more that she starts to understand herself, her concept of herself as a person, what she likes, what she dislikes, how to react towards other people, is like how much she struggles with the different men in her life that want to control her.
Right.
And so, like, that definitely really resonates me, like, especially as someone who, like, having recently had facial surgery, and, like, I have noticed, like, out and about in the world getting more male attention, and having to kind of, like, be very polite about it and also try to protect myself from it, and, like, relating so much to that feeling of just, like, I kinda just wanna be out here and do my own thing and not be bothered, and these people around her can't seem to understand that.
So the part of the movie that it sat the hardest for me, and I don't want to say it didn't sit well, but just I had the most difficulty with, was the transformation where she finally realizes, as long as I'm with under the thumb of these men, there's only so much I can do. I'm going to take control of my own life and become a prostitute. And that is such a choice. And obviously, it takes place in a pseudo past futuristic past, like a pseudo futuristic past. You mentioned there are flying cars, but also most of the travel is being done by steamship. Like it's just, so it's kind of like Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow type of thing, where it's like taking place in the past, but a version of the past that's slightly
Kind
more
of steampunky a little bit, but
exact,
like
very much so, very much so. And so, at that time, it's like, what are what are her possibilities for gaining this independence? And the one that presents itself to her immediately is being a prostitute, and she really likes sex. So, which, by the way, fantastic, and but the prostitutions are just so aggressively in your face, and just so like, this is her reality right now, and she's okay with it. How do you feel about it? And it's like, ow. mm,
I
I want
mean
it. Yeah.
I mean, go for it, girl. Cuz I mean, the people that she's working with aren't necessarily the best people,
No.
but she's there by choice.
But
And
then
she's
is she though? Because then she even cut, says at one point she realizes that, yeah, before she was being controlled by men, now this is just a different type of control over her.
yeah, and so like that's where I don't know, I found it just to be an interesting chapter in her discovering like what
Yeah.
freedom means, because
Right. Right.
originally freedom felt like something that was really easy, clear cut. Like I just
Yes.
need to get away from Mark Ruffalo, who we should say is fucking great. I
Oh my
love Mark
god.
Ruffalo so much in this
He's
movie.
not going to get nominated for best supporting because that category is
What?
absolutely stacked,
He
but he
is
should.
like he's one of the most assured ones.
Is he really?
Really?
I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anybody say he's like,
Really?
yeah,
Because
I'd
he
have
has a
to.
Golden Globe, he has Critics' Choice.
But the
Like,
Golden Globes have the comedy and the drama, and so it's really easy to like slide in people like Mark Ruffalo into the comedy on the Golden Globe side.
no, they combined it for supporting actor.
Oh,
He's there
really?
along with
Okay.
Willem Dafoe.
Oh, well, okay. What do I know? I guess I just watched this movie, and like, I love
Not
this
like
movie so much. There's no way normal people
not like
like
I
this
keep up with
movie.
Oscars and stuff.
You do, and that's good. I thank you.
But anywho,
Yeah.
we got really sidetracked. Sorry.
No, this movie is a sidetrack. I mean, there's no way to stay on topic on this movie, because
Yeah,
this
but
movie
like
doesn't
that's where
try
I
to
did
stay
find
on
it
topic.
really interesting.
Yes.
And there's another man that comes into her life like much later into the
Yeah.
movie. And like I just found it so fascinating watching her in these different situations, whether she was a sex worker, whether she,
Yeah.
you know, goes like explores potential fiance with Rami Youssef,
Yeah.
like all these different things that she is wanting. Like I just love her being able to experience these things, both the good and the bad, and be able to kind of make decisions for herself. Like
Yeah.
she's with one person and then she says, "You know what? This is not working out because you are not fulfilling my needs. You are here trying to stop me from fulfilling my needs.
Right.
Therefore, like we're done."
And I love that she literally uses the prostitution to become a doctor. And it's like the classic, like, oh, well, I'm only doing, sex work in order to go to college and that sort of thing. And it's like she literally uses that as a stepping stone to becoming a doctor, and it's absolutely brilliant. I have to mention my two favorite characters.
Okay.
Um, from the scene from the funniest scenes in the movie, like the genuinely funniest scenes in the movie, which take place on the cruise ship with Mark Ruffalo, and that is the cynic Harry Astley, played by Gerard Carmichael, and the sort of elderly Bella, which is Mrs. Prim, played by Vicky Pepperdine. And those two characters and the way they play off of each other, and the fact that they are so diametrically opposed to everything that Bella has experienced before them, is just so delicious and fun. I want a spin-off movie with just those three going around and seeing atrocities throughout the world. Like that's just what I want in a movie. And that if that makes me weird, then so be it. I don't know.
Yeah, although I also kind of wish more of those moral conundrums that she was experiencing that
Right.
we got to see those.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's like I could really have used that and you know, but it's so great because that brings her forward so much in her moral growth that when when she takes control of her means of production, I think is you know, as a
Her means
socialist,
of production.
you know, as a
I
socialist
love that.
prostitute, you know, it so makes sense in the context of what's going on in this story. It's perfect. You mentioned Willem Dafoe. We have to talk about him for just a minute and his character. Dear God, what tragedies and atrocities did that per person have to deal with? And the
I do love the running gag that like every single time you learn about his dad, it's something that's even more
worst,
strange and horrible at the same
horrible.
time.
Literally, his father was the worst person on the planet, and he knows it, but respects everything that he acknowledges that nothing he does today could have been possible if he, you know, didn't have this terrible upbringing, which he loved, and because it made him who he is today. And it's
And that's why we
fascinating.
needed Rami Youssef because then
Yeah,
Rami Youssef is just like that's what do you like
yeah,
getting to see his reaction to literally everything in the entire movie
everything.
as the
Yes,
straight person in this
yes,
narrative
yeah.
is just like
The normie in the narrative is
he's like, your
just
dad did what?
yeah. And that he still loves Bella. God bless. You know, I
He's a he gives a warmth that you would not expect from that character.
from any character in this movie, and he is the reason why the movie really works for me. And this cannot be overstated. One of my things that I love in cinema is being able to associate and attach to a character. And there's just nobody in this movie that's remotely you know, relatable because they are so they are such caricatures, but they put in Rami Youssef's character, and he is just so perfect as the stand-in, and that's what we need. Like my problem with so many movie directors that try to do weird stuff like this is that they lose sight of the fact that you need a stand-in for the audience in your weirdness, or there's going to be something missing for a segment of the audience, and that's a problem. Like, you know, everybody should be able to watch this and enjoy and relate. And I I love his character so much. You know, just absolutely love it.
Me too. In fact, I was joking with a friend of mine who he had one friend say that she was going to go solely for Rami Youssef. And I was like, of all the people in this cast, this is the one person that you're like, I need to go for Rami Youssef. I need to go give him support for the character that he is in this crazy fucking weird movie.
Uh, yeah, and God bless, because he's amazing. It has to be said. Like, I hope this movie gets a SAG nom
I
because
hope so too.
it is the I,
Is it in my top 5 for ensemble? Where is my top 5 for ensemble? I
like,
should add
for
it.
me it would be this, and it would be Asteroid City, and then I'd have to go and figure it out because Barbie would be up there too. Oppenheimer would be up there. But
It wasn't, but I'm adding it now.
Poor Things for me is better than both Oppenheimer and Barbie from that standpoint, just because everybody's just absolutely on fire and hitting it out of the park in total absolute bonkers weirdness.
There you
And
go.
yeah, so
It's in my 5 now.
excellent. I'm glad. You know, great. Curate, throw it at me. What do you what are your 5 ensembles?
Okay, top 5 ensembles of the year so far, because I still have a lot to see.
For sure.
Number 5, Poor Things. Number 4, Saltburn.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Number 3, Joyride.
Okay. Sure.
Um,
I can see that.
Number 2, I'm going really hard on this movie. Knock at the Cabin. Love Knock at the Cabin.
Oh, interesting. Okay. No, that would not be in my top 20. Continue.
And number one, Barbie.
Okay, Barbie for sure. Yeah. I Knock at the Cabin. I'm not,
Knock
no.
at the Cabin.
Okay,
It
that's
is
fine.
number 6 on my
Y-
top 10 so far.
you be you. Um
There's a Hallmark movie that's even higher.
okay. Oh, really?
Yes.
Interesting.
I might ask us to review it
You
because I love it.
I will do anything to get you on the show. Go ahead. Give us your rating for Poor Things.
My rating is 4 plus guac, 4
Awesome.
tacos plus guac.
Yep.
It's a movie that, I mean, I was already on board. I love Yorgos Lanthimos. I think his work, the way that he tells his stories, the kinds of stories he tells are always so fascinating and so unique.
Mhm.
And like, yeah, I hope everyone is like can give this a chance. We should probably also say this movie is really fucking funny. Like
Yeah.
really darkly funny.
So
Like throughout the entire thing. Like it's a
yeah,
riot.
yeah. One of the best dark comedies since The Favorite, honestly. I mean, just like just acerbic. Why stop a train? I'm gonna go ahead and do another half above you. I'm going five tacos. I love this fucking movie. The only part of it that I had a hard time with, that I acknowledge 100%, that's on me. That but it's such an impactful and important scene. Her time as a prostitute. I just had a really hard time with it. And then it does get a little dark after that, where when she returns and is reunited with her prior self's husband. That But she's just so good in that like Emma Stone. I hope she gets a nominee. She would be
I
my
think she
pick right
will.
now.
She could possibly win.
She would be my pick right now, just because of the way she plays the scenes, counter this guy who clearly held all of the power over her in her prior life, and to the point where she felt she had to escape and kill herself, even though it meant killing her baby, who apparently she didn't want. But that's a whole other thing. To where
Blair
now
oh,
she has all of the power over him. It's so great. It's such a great flip. I'm sorry, can go on.
Blair asked if they would like this.
Oh, Blair, yeah, you would like this one.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
He 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 would really. And Blair, I will buy this when it comes out, and you can come on over and we'll have burger fi or whatever, and enjoy the movie. You're invited.
Burger fight?
Burger fi. It's a cheeseburger
Oh,
joint.
I thought you were gonna like fight with
No,
burgers.
Burger Fi, BURGERFI, as in Semper Fi, but instead it's Burger Fi. But yeah, so that's where I land. Kristen, 3 movies. We actually liked all 3
Yeah,
to
and
varying degrees.
it was really interesting to see all 3 movies that we liked, but we liked again, like you said, different ways, different degrees, different
Yeah,
places.
yeah. We're gonna be talking about Poor Things again when it gets closer to the Oscars and we do our Oscar reaction, I think. So
Awesome. I'm
yeah.
looking forward to it.
For sure, me too. Thank you so much once again, Kristen, for coming out. I am Paul Britton, the host, Real Talk. I hope you all enjoyed the show and will join me next week when the grandfather of the pod, it's going to be Sergio Barrera, is going to be joining me when we talk about the Iron Claw. Also, I will be doing a couple other films. I hinted at one, Color Purple, as well. So join us next week, or join me next week, and have a wonderful, wonderful time. Can't wait to see you again, Kristen.
Awesome. Thank you again so much for having me. Love it here.
Bye.